Hello and welcome to Sarder TV. I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick. Our studio guest is author Robbie Baxter. She's also a founder of Peninsula Strategies and has been the go-to consultant for major industry disruptors like Netflix, eBay, and SurveyMonkey. And she's here today to talk about one of her books, The Membership Economy, which is based in part on these new disruptive business models. Robbie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Tracy.
So let's get right into this. You have been actually credited with coining this business term, membership economy. Describe what a membership economy is and why did you feel it was important to write this type of book right now?
Membership economy is a term that I started using to describe a massive transformational trend that I was seeing, starting with organizations like Netflix and Spotify, but really that I've seen in almost every industry. And it's about a move from ownership to access, from the transactional to the relational, from one-way communication where I speak to my customers through my loudspeaker and they better listen. And it's about one big payment as opposed to lots of little payments that go on forever.
So you are also the founder of Peninsula Strategies. Tell us a little bit about how you founded this company and what did it play into as far as writing your new book, Membership Economy?
So Peninsula Strategies is the firm where we do work with membership economy companies. So we help organizations that want to use principles like subscription pricing, freemium, digital community to build forever relationships with their customers. And I took all of my learning from working with all of these different companies and applied it to frameworks that are outlined in the book.
So who can benefit most from reading your book?
Anybody who cares about having a relationship with the customer can benefit from the book. So if you're, last gas for 100 miles or, the only game in town, maybe you don't care if your customers don't like you. But if your customers have choice and you want to build a long-term relationship with them, then these principles can help you strengthen your relationship and build recurring revenue.
And who is your target audience?
Target audience is anybody who runs a business. So I've worked with organizations like Microsoft and Netflix, big companies, but also, the hair salon down the street can benefit from these kinds of principles.
Now, have you always had an innovative streak, or did this come later on?
I've always been a creative person and an innovator. I almost can't help myself when I see something to want to offer a suggestion. Today I was getting my hair done and I was explaining to the owner.
And it looks fabulous, by the way, I must say.
Why, thank you. I was explaining to the owner of the salon what he could do to make his salon more welcoming and to bring people back, and also what he could do to keep his employees happier. And funny thing is, he didn't ask.
Interesting. Okay.
I can't help it.
And I'm sure he'll take some of that advice, though, that you did give him.
Yeah, he said he would. We'll see.
So how did we shift into this membership environment?
So we as human beings have always loved to belong and to be known. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, once we have our basic physiological needs met, things like food, shelter, Wi-Fi, things we can't live without, we move up the ladder and we want to mitigate risk. We want to belong. We want to have our Cheers bar experience, and we want to be recognized for our contributions and our achievements. And finally, we want to reach our full potential. So those upper three needs, belonging, esteem, and full potential, or self-actualization, those have always been around. But it's been hard for most organizations to provide those benefits because technology didn't allow them to do it. They had to do it in person. So when you think about membership, historically, it's usually about physical relationships, your local gym, your trade guild, things like that. Whereas now, all of the changes in technology are enabling this kind of forever relationship to be done digitally across time and space. The other thing that's happening right now that's enabling all kinds of new business models that leverage these technologies is the massive influx of venture capital money to invest and the really, really long runway that gives entrepreneurs to build a relationship before they have to see a return on the investment.
What's the difference between creating members versus simply being a customer? Is there a big difference there?
Yeah, and the big difference between membership and customers is really with the employer with the company, not necessarily with the customers. So it's how I treat my customers as opposed to what the customers call themselves. So you as a customer may say, I'm a customer, I'm a listener, I'm a shopper. But if the organization treats you like a member, it means that they're expecting to have a long-term relationship with you. And when we expect to have a long-term relationship with somebody, we treat them differently than we would treat a stranger.
So what's the difference between membership and sharing economies? And can you share a case study or an example with us?
Yeah, so people talk about membership economy, people talk about sharing economy, and I'll add that people talk about subscription economy. Mm-hmm. What I would say is a subscription economy is about a pricing decision. A subscription is the relationship that you have with the customer, how you charge them. It's a pricing choice. Sharing economy is when the customers themselves share assets. So I have an apartment that I don't use, I let you stay there, Airbnb, that's sharing economy. That's me as a customer owning that property as opposed to the company owning it. That's sharing economy. So, you know, your peers own cars that they share, they own apartments that they share, and so on. And membership economy can include sharing economy organizations because it's really about any organization that is trying to build a long-term relationship.
So they all overlap a little bit.
They overlap a little bit, yeah. Yeah, so Airbnb, Uber, those are sharing economy businesses where underutilized assets get used more by peers. Membership economy includes those, but it also includes companies where the assets are owned by the company, like Netflix, right? Netflix owns all the movies, or they have the rights to all of those movies, and we access them as customers, but you're not accessing my library.
Now, are millennials the biggest demographic taking advantage of all of these types of economies that you're talking about in your book?
Yeah, well, so millennials seem to be very interested in access over ownership. They understand the benefits that come with being able to access things without having the burdens of maintenance, ownership, depreciation, and so on. So yeah, it's definitely something that millennials like, but it also makes sense for anybody who wants a different set of benefits than the benefits that are provided by ownership. So, you know, I own a car, but a lot of the time it sits either in my driveway or in front of my office. Wouldn't it be better to have, you know, just a car when I need it, or even better than that, just the car when I need it, driven by somebody else, which is, of course, Uber. Mm-hmm. So membership economy is about breaking apart the benefits and repackaging them in a way that makes more sense for the customer.
What's the biggest factor in the growth of this membership economy? Is there one thing that you can pinpoint?
Yeah, there's actually two things that have really extended the membership economy. One of them is that technology is extending the infrastructure that enables trusting long-term relationships. Things like user-generated content, always-on devices, mobility, that makes it easier for me as a company to have a relationship with you as a customer. Second thing is that there's so much money going into new businesses that all kinds of companies are able to disrupt old-fashioned businesses and create new models that take advantage of principles of membership. So technology and venture capital.
And how do you know if a membership economy business model would be a good fit for your organization?
So a membership economy model is great if you're trying to build a more known and long-term relationship. Some companies call it direct-to-consumer, right? Instead of going through the retailer, I want to sell directly to you. That way I get to learn more about you, and I can use that learning to give you better products and services and build greater loyalty. So, you know, any business that is trying to build greater loyalty can probably benefit from it.
And how about the downsides to being part of this membership economy? What would you say to that?
The dark side of the membership economy is, first of all, that a lot of companies misapply it. So they say things to me like, we want to hire you because we want to sell our products as a subscription. And I say, well, why? What's in it for the customer? And they say, we don't know about the customer, but we can get a better valuation in the public markets if we have subscription revenue. So in other words, they start to charge you subscription fees without providing commensurate value. So a lot of customers talk about subscription fatigue, where they say, all these companies are forcing me to have subscriptions. I don't need subscriptions. I'd rather just own this stuff. And I can't even keep track of my subscriptions. So then they actually stop trusting the company, and it kind of backfires. And that's really the darker side of membership models, is when you use part of it, but you don't go all the way there, and you end up losing trust with your customer.
Is the exploitation of privacy having a negative impact at all on the growth of all of these membership organizations that you detail in your book?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a pushback. The way I see it is that in order to have a trusted relationship with someone, even with a company, the company has to know something about you, right? If you want people to say, welcome back, Robbie, or welcome back, Tracy, they have to know your name. So that's why, consumers were willing to give a lot of information to these companies. But what's happened is a lot of companies have taken advantage of it or been irresponsible with the data management and putting people's privacy at risk. And as a result of that, there's been a real pushback, both in terms of what individual consumers have demanded and also more broadly in terms of regulations being put into effect by governments and countries such as GDPR.
Now with this backlash, everything's starting to change a little bit here in the States. Do you think it will ever get to a point where people feel comfortable with all of their data being mined, or do you think there's going to be more pushback?
I think that we're hopefully going to get to a nice equilibrium, like a happy balance. In order to provide a personalized experience, an organization does need some data and some knowledge of who they're serving, and they do need to store that data, and they do need to use that data to give the customer the experience they want. At the same time that people are complaining about companies, taking advantage of their data, people are saying things like, how come when I call you, you don't know it's me? And how come I have to explain to you what it is I've already done? Shouldn't you know that already? I call it the Amazon effect. We expect the companies to know everything about us, but then when they know everything about us, sometimes it's a little creepy.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the tactics and strategies you need in order to leverage to become a successful membership organization.
So the first thing that you need to be a successful membership organization is the right mindset. You have to be thinking about the long term. And it's harder than it looks, right? Everybody says, we love the customer, we're built around the customer. But then you have your quarterly earnings report and you say, let's charge late fees because that's a good way for us to hit our number. Or let's hide the cancel button, make it so that you can only cancel your subscription Tuesdays between 12 and 5, for example. And that way people maybe will subscribe on average for an extra month or two, and we'll make up our shortfall that way. So you have to have restraint and not do those kinds of short-term things to hit your numbers. You also have to cut your customers some slack. If I'm loyal to the company needs to be somewhat loyal to me. So if I make a mistake, or I say, hey, I want to return this, or I say, hey, I didn't mean to do that, the company needs to treat me like somebody that they trust as well.
How can you ensure the success of transitioning to a membership economy, and can you share a case study of this?
A lot of companies have moved to a membership model. And
so what is the percentage of that when you say a lot of companies? Is it like 30%, 40%? Is there a...
I don't know what the number is, but I've been getting calls from everybody from financial services to physical products like cars and like home equipment, hard goods, clothing, retail, airlines. So many different industries are moving to subscription. And the reason is because subscription pricing gets you a higher valuation in the public markets, and having consumer data and having that direct-to-customer relationship allows you to better protect yourself against competition. So, when I first wrote my book, when I was writing my book, most of my examples were digital natives, the Netflixes and Spotifys and LinkedIn's of the world. But now, big public, well-established companies are using membership. So, for example, VOLVO has a membership model now where you can subscribe to I think it's the C70 model, and You pay a monthly fee, you have access to it. You can, when the car breaks down or needs repairs, you get a different one. You don't have any of the burdens of ownership, but you have all the access.
So what
that
is
you
it,
need.
like a lease almost? Or
It's
you
like,
just whenever you want one-offs?
It's like a lease in that you don't have a long-term commitment, but it's priced as a subscription, and it incorporates all of the other services that you would need for the car. So maintenance and repairs, and they deliver the car to you. Porsche actually gives you access through their membership model to their entire array of vehicles. So if you need an SUV to go up to the snow one week, but the next week you want a coupe, you can swap them out as often as you like. So that's an example of a company that's moving towards membership. Another example of a company moving towards membership, totally different, is Restoration Hardware, the retailer. So you can pay an upfront fee to become a member, and you get a regular discount on anything that you want to buy there. So you pretty much be stupid if you don't have the membership, if you're planning to, let's say, redo your dining room. And they also give you access to their decorators. So that's another model of membership. So a lot of different companies are trying to think about, what is the forever promise that we have with our customer? What is the deeper reason that they're coming to us? So I don't go to Restoration Hardware because I want to buy a dining room table. I go there because I want my house to feel like a home and look great. And the closer that Restoration Hardware can come to helping me achieve that goal, as opposed to saying we're a place where she buys a dining room table, the more I'm likely to appreciate them, the more I'm willing to pay, and the more likely I am to be loyal.
And when they offer these perks, is it 1 year commitment, or do you have to commit to this for, say, 2 or 3 years and you get locked in? So how do these companies deal with that type of issue and commitment for their customer
So different
base?
companies have different ideas of what kind of commitment. So I think with Restoration Hardware, you pay for an annual fee to become a member. Netflix has always said we're never going to require more than 1 month of payments. So they don't even offer a discount. If you, let's say that you say, I love Netflix and I'm committed for the next 5 years, what's the fee? They won't do it. You only can pay monthly for that. So different companies have different approaches. And part of that is you don't ever want your customer to feel like they're locked in. You want them to feel like they want to be there. You want to be a magnet, not handcuffs.
Now, what's the difference? You talk a lot about the funnel and the shoot approach in your book. What is the difference between the two, and how does it add value to a company?
Okay, so in sales and marketing, you have like your sales funnel, right? And at the top are all the strangers who don't know about you, and then they hear about you, maybe they try it, maybe they buy it, and then you start over. At the top of the funnel, try to get someone else through it. So the funnel kind of looks like this. What I encourage companies to do is to try to make their funnel into a shoot. So the top and the bottom are the same width. In other words, you're attracting the people that are most likely to stay the longest. Lots of companies waste a lot of resources bringing the wrong people in. So one example of that, and I hate to pick on them, but Blue Apron, the meal kit delivery company, they bring in so many people to their trial, but most of those people leave within 6 months. So those customers aren't profitable. So what I would be encouraging them to do is to get really clear on who is going to come and stay forever, who they can best serve, and focus on getting their trial to those people, as opposed to this really broad net of attracting lots of people. The reason they attract a lot of people is because their free trial is so good that even if you're not really serious about staying, you might be interested in experiencing the trial.
So what's a super user, and how can communities successfully leverage them?
Okay, a super user is somebody who goes beyond just being a great customer, and they actually spend their own time and resources to help the business model thrive. So I'll give you a couple of examples, one on the B2B side and one on the consumer side. So on the B2B side, Salesforce.com, probably the poster child for software as a service and for a true membership mindset for a business-to-business company. They have something called MVPs, like most valuable player, but this is for their very best customers who not only do they pay on time and do all the things that a good customer does, but they actually are willing to be referenceable customers. They participate in user groups and forums and educate new customers on how to get the most value out of the products that Salesforce sells. And they're willing to speak on behalf of Salesforce at conferences. And they even give feedback to product managers. And Salesforce designates a small group of these people to be their MVPs. And it's a really big deal. Like, it's on your resume, you get together with those people, but the only real reward you don't get money. The only thing that you really get are like swag, like MVP socks, attention, the designation. It's very much about being part of this club. And it's something that's very, very desired and hotly contested among Salesforce administrators. On the consumer side, my sister is a CrossFitter. Are you familiar with CrossFit, the workout thing?
Yes.
Very intense, 3-day-a-week workout. You do it in a small group. It's expensive. My sister is a member. She goes 3 times a week. She works out. She's a very good customer. But she goes beyond that. So she writes a blog called View from the Back of the Pack, which is for really competitive athletes who are on the slower side. And she shares her expertise as a psychologist in that blog. She and her husband host CrossFit Driveway in front of their house on days when the gym is closed and invite everybody from the gym to come and get their workouts in. And she's probably brought in on her own about 15 new members. And she does all of that because CrossFit is so meaningful to her. And her studio, they call it a box, her box is so important to her that she spends her own time and money to help that box be successful.
Now, did they encourage her, or she just stepped up and started doing it? And are they recognizing her, obviously, for this as their ambassador or super user?
Yeah, so she started doing it on her own, and then they recognized her and appreciated her, and it's been a virtuous cycle. What I encourage companies to do is to look at who your super users are. And most companies can say, oh, that guy, John Smith, he's a super user. Remember what he did? And they can tell the anecdotes. To think about, like, who are the 5 or 10 super users that you want to make more of? And what was their behavior like early on? And how did they behave differently than the majority of our customers? And what can we do to encourage and support that behavior in new customers? So it's almost like you create a little super user factory. And you make it easy for people to recognize these are the behaviors we want, these are the behaviors we reward, and this is how you get a sense of belonging and status in our community.
So how important is pricing when you're trying to implement this membership model? And are there common pricing mistakes that companies and individuals tend to make?
Pricing is really important in membership models because what you want the customer to do is to take off their consumer hat and put on their member hat and stop looking for alternatives. You want them to say, just put me on auto pay. That's the goal. Now, in order to get somebody to say, put me on auto pay, that person has to trust you. And they have to trust that the pricing is a really good deal. So lots of people, when they go onto a membership model or they get into a subscription pricing situation, they even put a note to themselves, remember to cancel, right? Because they don't quite trust the organization. And you want them to delete that and to just say, you know what, this is how I'm going to get my news from now on, or this is how I'm going to get my videos from now on, or I love this gym and I'm just going to go here and I don't even know when they charge me, but I totally trust them. And the mistake that a lot of organizations make is they make the pricing too complex. So think about like your mobile phone, right? And there's all kinds of things. How much data do you want? How long are you committing? How many people in your family have phones? Does it fit in with your cable, your cable service? And what happens when pricing gets complex like that is that we keep our consumer hat on. Because we say, wait, I don't really understand this. I need to be an expert in this pricing, and therefore I need to always be watching them because they might change something. And when you're in that mode of always watching the company, trust diminishes. And that's probably the biggest mistake. The other thing that companies do is they price too low and then they have to raise their price. Because the other thing with member pricing is you want to trust them and you want to do it forever and you feel like you've made a deal with them, $10 a month, right? And I'll pay that forever. If it's suddenly $12 a month, I put my consumer hat back on and I say, wait a minute, now it's higher. And I might even feel resentful because I might think, well, I sort of figured it was going to be $10 forever and now suddenly it's $12. How can you trust these guys? Even if the company has a really good reason for raising the price.
And is offering freemiums a good strategy in order to attract new users or members? And can you share a case study or an example of where this worked out well or did not work out well?
Yeah, absolutely. So freemium is a business model where you give some people value forever for free and some people pay a premium to get that value forever. So you can think of, there's lots and lots of models like this. Two that come right to mind, LinkedIn and Spotify. So the vast majority of people who use LinkedIn don't pay, right? There's really, I mean, historically there've been, three groups.
Do you think they're going to change that business model anytime soon?
Yeah, they're changing it right now.
So they're in the middle of doing that now.
Yeah, so, but here's the thing. The vast majority of people can get tremendous value from LinkedIn for free forever. Right? They want to be the community for all professionals. So pretty much every professional I know is a member. Most of the time when I meet somebody new, I link in with them right away. I don't have to pay anything for that to keep track of my what they used to call Rolodex, and also to post my own what we used to call resume, so that people can find me. But if you're in sales and you want to be able to reach potential customers, or you're a recruiter and you want to reach people to hire, or you're a job seeker and you want to reach hiring managers, those are three reasons when you might pay for a subscription. More recently, LinkedIn has added a whole bunch of professional development programs through their acquisition of lynda.com. So I've created 10 courses for them for lynda.com, and people can access those courses and like thousands of other courses for like $30 a month through LinkedIn. So if you want to use LinkedIn for professional development, you can pay $30 a month and get unlimited access to all of these courses.
And they've already launched that and it's successful.
Yeah, they've already launched that. And right now, LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. And so there's all kinds of ways that slowly but surely Microsoft Office is being connected with LinkedIn. So you can actually, access the apps through LinkedIn and vice versa. So, these things keep coming in a very organic way. But my guess is that LinkedIn forever will have a free subscription. So you won't have to do those things and you will still get value, but there's increasing amounts of value that you can get if you pay the premium fees.
Now, how has this new economy changed the role of CIOs, Chief Information Officers at corporations and companies?
So the biggest change for CIOs is the rise of the SaaS model, software as a service, which basically means that instead of having to host your own software on your own servers in your own building, and maintain it and fix it when it's not working and customize it to suit your organization, now you can subscribe to the software. The software is kept at the vendor site. They take care of it and you get it through the cloud. And so what that does is it makes it a lot easier for organizations and individuals to access the software they need without being technology experts. So, normal people like you and I, if we need, let's say, to put up a website, or we need to track our data, or we need to, have a system at home for managing our home office, we can do that without hosting all of those software at our house or at our small business. And so that gives us greater flexibility. What it does for the CIO is it moves a lot of their historical responsibility, it pushes it out into the organization. So marketing can choose their own software and manage their own relationships. Sales can have their own relationships, operations. And that leaves the IT department and the technology department to either work on things that are very unique to that company or things that can't be done elsewhere. So they have kind of a more focused job. And so on the one hand, it's fewer headcount, smaller budget, but on the other hand, it's a chance to really focus on doing differentiated work.
Can you talk about some of the secrets in order to increase loyalty, and can you share a successful case study of this?
Yeah, so lots of companies have used subscription and membership mindset to build greater loyalty. You can look at Nordstrom's acquisition, several years ago of Trunk Club, which is a subscription service for stylist, right? A stylist who picks your clothes and sends them to you and looks at you when you try them on through FaceTime. So that's a way of building loyalty. You can look at the car companies that are now offering subscription access to many different makes and models of their cars to build greater loyalty. Unilever acquired Dollar Shave Club, both because that was and for $1 billion, right. Both that was a big acquisition. And they did it for a couple of reasons. One of them is it's a good, profitable, growing business, so a good thing to acquire, but also for the learning of how to have a direct-to-consumer relationship, which can be applied across their other properties. So those are a few examples across different industries of big traditional companies that are moving to more of a member mindset, more of a long-term focus, and really trying to get to know their customer so that they can have a more formal relationship over time.
Well, with all of these various membership subscriptions, what exactly is subscription fatigue and how can we avoid it?
Subscription fatigue is when your customers say, I'm sick of subscriptions. So it can happen for a bunch of different reasons. One of them is if the subscription is too complicated and they're not getting value, right? And they say, I don't even know what I'm paying anymore, but I think it's a really big number and I'm tired of it. I'd rather just own outright or just stop for a while. Another is when they get too much product. So for example, let's say you give dad a tie of the month gift for Father's Day, right? I mean, how many ties does one dad really need, right? By month 6, he's like, I have 6 new ties. I wear a tie, once every month at the most. I'm overwhelmed by ties or issues of the New Yorker or whatever it is. It's too much stuff and I can't use it. And there's too many subscriptions and I can't keep track of them. There's even services now that manage your subscriptions and help you to cancel them. So that's kind of where we are. There's so many subscriptions that people are just exhausted.
How can an organization like Sears, one of the original membership economy companies, how did they miss this entire trend? And do you think they'll ever be able to
I don't know. It's
sustain,
a sad
come back
story.
if they get bought? Yeah.
It's a sad story because you think about Sears, and they were really one of the first companies that really understood their customer. And they realized not all of our customers can get to our retail outlets. So let's have a catalog. Let's make it easy for people to see everything we have in the store and access it from their homes. And let's figure out how to get smart about delivering it to their homes. So, people in rural areas all over America used to look forward to the giant Sears catalog coming so that they could say, I want to buy whatever, everything. I want to buy a new suit. I want to buy a new dishwasher. It didn't matter what the products. They could order it and have it delivered, directly to their home, which is, really exactly what Amazon is doing now.
Right.
Sears could have been Amazon. Right, they were much better positioned for it. They already had a really well-known brand name. They already had relationships with all the vendors, right? They had, great suppliers. They had a huge array of products.
So what did they miss? What went on there? What went on with the top
I think
members
what
of the
happened, and this happens with a lot of companies, is they fell in love with their processes and their products more than they loved their customers. So they would say, and of course I wasn't privy to this, but what it looks like from the outside is they said, we're a catalog company, we're a retailer, this is how we do things. And then they added on a little bit of digital, but they didn't go about saying, what does the customer need and how can we use these new technologies to really knock the ball out of the park? They worried about, hey, we have this catalog business. We can't kill our catalog business. We have these retail outlets. We need to keep them the way they are. If they had been more bold and said, what would we be doing if we started today and we had the same mission, which is to make it as possible for Americans to get everything they need in the easiest way possible, they might have flipped it all on its head. They might have gotten rid of their retail outlets quicker. They might have invested more in digital. There's any number of things that they might have done, but I think they were really held back by the model they had built. They, you think about libraries, for example. Libraries and Google have the same mission, which is to make the world's information available for free. But libraries are all about books and buildings. And if you talk to anybody in the library services business, that's where they focus. Mm-hmm. And they kind of missed the window for digital search. And now they're trying to catch up, but it's kind of mind-boggling to think about what if the world's libraries had thought about digital search, when Google was just getting started over at Stanford.
So what tactics should be harnessed if someone does want to start a membership economy business model?
Yeah, so if you're starting from scratch, you want to start by saying, what's the problem I'm solving for my customer? Who's that customer? And how do I solve the problem forever? It's having a forever mindset. So it doesn't matter what that is. Let's say you have a nail salon, right? Nobody goes to a nail salon because they like to get their nails done. They go to a nail salon because they want to have their nails look good. And they want them to look good all the time. So the current model of going, every 2 or 3 weeks, actually, in a lot of ways doesn't make sense, because if you have a chip or you have a broken nail, you want to get that fixed immediately. So what if they offered a subscription and said, hey, if you are committed to us, if you're a member of our salon, you can stop in any time and we'll give you a touch-up. We'll fix the nail that's broken, whatever you need.
Are they doing that in California yet?
There's a couple of places that are doing that, but it hasn't gotten widely popular. It has gotten popular with car washes, where you pay a monthly fee and you have unlimited car washes. Same idea, right? You want your car clean, and if no birds poop on it and it doesn't rain, maybe you don't need your car washed very often. But if one of those things happens, you want to get your car washed immediately. So people are willing to pay to mitigate the risk and have the sense that the problem will be solved forever. So that's what you would do if you were just starting out.
And what challenges do you think organizations are going to face when they want to transition from an ownership business model to an access one? And can you share an example of this?
Yeah, so if you're not just starting out as a pure native membership economy company, and you want to transition, so you're very transactional right now, let's say. So you sell something, somebody buys it, and then off they go, and then the next time they need something, maybe they come back to you, or maybe they go to someone else. If you want to smooth that out and make that into more of a member relationship, you want to take a step back and say, what is the bigger problem I'm solving, right? It's not about getting a manicure, it's about having my hands look good. It's not about owning a car, it's about getting from place A to place B when I need to, with the people and stuff I need to bring along. What are other ways I can offer that? And if you think about that, you'll get a whole bunch of new ideas about what combination of features and benefits you want to offer your customer. And then you can price it for the long term, through a subscription or through a membership. And the possibilities are really limitless.
So what are the top 3 takeaways you hope people get out of your book?
Okay, number 1 is love your customers and their mission more than you love your own products, processes, or even the people that have been working for you forever. It's not supposed to be family, it's supposed to be a team with the right people and the right services to really help the customer. The second thing is to really focus on the long term. And the third thing is to keep it as simple as possible so that you can build a trusted relationship.
So talk about the success of early disruptors like Salesforce.com, and do you foresee a disruptor on the horizon that could possibly upend this membership economy? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Salesforce came in and they said, most salespeople do not like using the software that their companies make them use to track their leads. Most salespeople hate it. They find it's not useful for them, it's onerous, it's complicated to use. And so Salesforce came up with 2 things. One of them is the features were really optimized for the salesperson, not just for the company where the salesperson worked. And the second thing is it was priced in such a way that a salesperson could subscribe without, and then they could expense it without going through like a big purchasing process through their company. And then when they got a lot of salespeople in one company subscribing, then they would go to the corporate people and say, hey, look, we have 500 salespeople from your organization using our product. Do you want to buy a larger subscription and have a dashboard? So they were able to disrupt the much bigger players that were already in that space by really focusing on an unmet need. This continues to happen in a lot of industries. It's a repackaging of value focused on a different customer or a customer who's underserved. We're seeing the same things happening now in different industries. We're seeing it with physical products like cars. Peloton, the exercise bicycle, is really upending not just at-home fitness equipment, but also, SoulCycle's taking a hit because people are changing the way they exercise. It's way more convenient to exercise at home than to have to go to a gym. So there's lots and lots of room for disruption. And I think eventually, it'll equal out, and there's some things that people might prefer to own and some people that people prefer to access. But right now, there's so many things that we have the burden of ownership for that there's a lot of room to rethink how those models work and what it is we really have to commit to.
Robbie Baxter, it was fascinating talking with you today.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure.
And that's it for this edition of Sarder TV. We hope you enjoyed and learned something new today. Until next time, I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick. Thanks for watching.